Hello, Keller Williams. Thank you so much for joining us for session 17 of Ignite. I am Kaylee Haber, an ALC Tech Chair for Northwest Arkansas, as well as the Market Center Tech Trainer. And I am here to introduce Mike Dooley, who is an OP and CEO of the Dooley Group. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Excited to be here.
Excellent. We're so excited. So today we're going to go over session 17. I'm going to go ahead and leave the chat and let you take over, Mike.
Fantastic. And please don't go too far. I might need your help. We might need to bounce some stuff off you or have some fun with the folks. Hope everyone's doing good in their market centers or in their office, or if they're listening later on YouTube, go ahead and high five each other. Give a virtual high five. Let me go ahead and boom. We're excited to be. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
So as she said, we are in session 17, make and receive offers. And if you've been through this whole Ignite this whole time, man, there's been a lot of good information. I know if you, wait, I kind of recognize that guy. I was in a previous session, which was a lot of fun. But I just think there's something from Ignite. I think there's a lot of situations where we think, hey, new agents take Ignite. I will tell you, every time I take Ignite myself, we're listening and we're learning. And it has there on the bottom of the screen a CEO of the Dooley Group and then OP. Our market center last year did about 3,600 units. Just to give you some context, we did over $1 billion, which is really exciting. And we were based in Northwest Arkansas. And then the Dooley Group, my team, did 124 million last year. I believe it was about 314 units. So we're doing real estate. But I'll tell you one thing that I've learned to continue to be great and good. And by no means am I that. That's why we continue to have mastery and learn from Gary, is learning every single day and getting better. So I'm glad that you're here. So make and receive offers. And I have a little deck here, and you'll hear me, and we'll kind of work together, right? We're one team, and we're figuring this out. There it is. We'll go through the course overview. And here's the great thing is you have 3 more to go. But I would challenge you. Here's the great thing with being YouTube and other platforms for you. Listen again, watch back again. If you're like, you know what? Hey, I'm about to work with a seller or a buyer. Let me go back to 14 and 15 and get a tip or two to help you get conversion. And it's not a secret, just so you know, most places in the United States, we're going through a little bit of a shift. And that just means the market's different. The way you do real estate is different. So your conversion needs to be really good. Maybe you're not talking as many buyers as you were 2 months ago. So learning to make sure every single buyer that you have and you can convert at a high level is going to be a win for you guys, right? So good. And I'll tell you today, we're going to kind of go through, we'll show you the course overview. But in the last class, we spoke about working with buyers and sellers from an agreement. And now, you know what? We're going to do the great thing about the offer. And, I thought, hey, when do I tell you this? Here's something that about making and receiving offers that I think is super, super key. If you don't remember anything else that I talk about today, remember this. Is in our society today, sometimes it's so text and email and DMing and Facebooking. In this process, I highly recommend calling. So if you're a buyer's agent or you're working with a buyer and you're going to submit your offer to a list agent or the seller, if you will, call them. I'll tell you that's number one. And hold up your finger. Number one, baby. Number one is to call them. I will tell you, there's so much gold in calling that list agent and saying, hey, I'm so excited. This is Mike Dooley from Keller Williams, and my client and I loved your home, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to submit an offer to you. What kind of things are really important to your client? Is it close date? Is that really important to your client? Because sometimes, what if you wrote an offer and it's $500,000 and someone else wrote $500,000, but they called the client and the agent and they wanted a 60-day close and you did a 30-day close. And the only reason you didn't win is because you didn't call and ask good questions. What if they said, you know what, hey, well, we're relocating with our job to Seattle and we need delayed occupancy by 2 weeks. Well, if you knew that and you asked those questions, you'll write a really good offer. Here's something else, time. When you're writing an offer, there's so many things that go through a contract. If you ask really good questions, maybe you only write one offer, then 47 of them back and forth. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. Oh, I forgot to tell you that. So that's really, really key. The first thing you really need to do is make sure you do a live call and ask good questions. I think that's really, really important. Well, excited. And hey, I'll tell you guys, when you look at what we're doing today, and I'm just going to go back a little bit, and you look at our set of beliefs at Keller Williams, and I chose one that I wanted to talk about with you today, is win-win. This really has to be anytime I ever see someone not win a deal or not win an offer, usually it's agent pride. We're all people, and that gets in the way where two agents just have friction. You're like, I'm not going to let them win. We need to remember this is about clients and two clients maybe getting their dream home or maybe selling, or maybe they're helping their elderly parents move to assisted living and they're selling their house. Remember, we're people. So if you really just ask good questions and remember it's about win-win, how do we work together? Anytime you work with another agent, your transaction is going to be really smooth. As you know, Gary and Mark talk about there's 200 tasks to close a home. If you slow down, those 200 tasks are going to be so much easier because you're working with a co-op agent, and it's awesome. We're working together as a team. We're win-win. So I just thought this one was really, really important to cover today. And we're just learning together, and hopefully you're following along fine. Hopefully you're doing good. I love it when you know, okay, where am I going? Well, just so you know, today with me and Ignite, you're going through, we're going to offer process, prepare the offer, write the offer, present the offer, receive and respond to the offer. We'll do some recaps and ahas and then a system. We'll have some ahas throughout the whole time. Take a little potty break, bathroom break, whatever it is. And just so you know, see me too, I got my little afternoon coffee too, so we'll do the same. This would not be a good Ignite or any Ignite without a good quote from Gary Keller. Go ahead if you wanted to read it in your room, read aloud with me. Some of the best agents I know love nothing more than a difficult negotiation that gives them a chance to really shine, to acknowledge objections, to discover a solution with which both sides can be happy. It's like I set it up with my win-win, right? It's both sides of being happy. And that's what it's about. It's about the client. So I would challenge you whenever I've seen deals not happen to, sometimes it's usually like less than $5,000. I call that agent pride. Really just take a step back. It can get heated sometimes. Take a deep breath and just say, hey, we're on one team. How do we help our clients? And I think that's really important. Agents always think the contract because we are signing it. Obviously, just so you know, I'm not an attorney and I'm not our principal broker. Make sure you talk to your own principal broker in your states. As you know, we're in 5 states and over 30 market centers. Every state's going to have some differences. But remember, the contract is between the two parties, the buyer and the seller, not you. So get yourself out of the way. We're just a conduit, a fiduciary to be able to help them. I think that's really important. So the offer process. Woohoo! Exciting. Here it is. I don't know about you, but I am a visual learner sometimes, so it's really good to see it. So what would I do if I'm either new or I need a refresher, or maybe I just need a little go? As you know, it's all about, if you ever heard Tom Brady's story, he has practiced the goal line pass with 1 second to go in the Super Bowl thousands and millions of times. And has he accomplished that? Yes. So when you want to accomplish winning the offer, go ahead and screenshot this, save it to your phone, have it placed. A lot of things that I do, and you'll see if you look through my favorites on my phone. If you ever see me at a conference, grab me and I'll show you. If you go through my favorites on my phones, there's quotes from Gene Rivers, from Gary Keller, Mark King, right on my phone. I save them as a favorite so I can refer back to them if I ever, or if another agent. I actually just had someone yesterday, a new agent. They were kind of working on a listing price. And as you know, we're in a shift. And I actually had two things. One of them from the shift book. That was the triangle on pricing it right. And it was a saved image on my phone and my favorites. And boom, I was able to text it to them. And that's adding value, who we are. That's our culture. But the first thing we're going to do in the offer process is the buyer's going to make the offer. Now, remember, this is key. It doesn't say the agent's going to make the offer. It's the buyer. And I think once I set that into myself to realize it's not agent to agent, we're the conduit, right? We're having the conversation. And I believe in the material, this doesn't say this, but I'm going to add this little context in this right here. One thing that happened to me, especially when I was new, is if you live in a smaller town or the people know each other or they looked up at each other on Facebook or whatever it is, just so you know, during the honeymoon phase, if you will, when we're getting under contract, buyers and sellers love each other. But there's always a process in those 200 tasks where the refrigerator, they took the wrong one, or the chandelier, it wasn't in the contract, and it becomes contentious. Just so you know, do yourself a favor in the beginning and just say, hey, buyer, I know you, this person, you might know him from church, if you will, but do me a favor through this process. Let me and the agent be your representative and let us be your fiduciary to make sure it's flawless for you. We've seen it too many times where emotions get high, and they will get high. And we want to make sure that this is done perfectly for you. And that's my job, and that's what I'll do for you. Really thing to remember is make sure you tell your client way ahead of time. When you get halfway through a deal, and I know some of you that have been doing real estate for a while are probably smiling and laughing. We all have a story where they started talking, right? Oh, hey, they're going to give me this desk in the room and all these things. Just so you know, that never ends well. We want to make sure it's a win-win and an awesome process. So the buyer, through us, right, we're going to submit the offer. And then negotiations. But remember, I just said this a few minutes ago. I want to remind you, definitely call the agent and ask really good questions. And they always seem to have diarrhea in the mouth where they're going to tell you, oh, I forgot to tell you this, but their grandmother gave them the chandelier in the dining room and they're taking it with them. Maybe that was never disclosed in the MLS or in other things. So how great is it to know that if your client's going, hey, one of my favorite things in the dining room is that $3,000 chandelier. So if you know before you submit the offer, that's really important. And my principal broker, Jody, we love him. He's great. He says always deduce it to writing. But I'll say too, don't be an attorney. A lot of our contracts in our 5 states are fill in the blank. Be very concise. And so if 4 people read it, they're not thinking 4 different things. It's one thing. So this is the negotiation time, right? Who loves negotiations? Woohoo! You know, I think negotiations, though, is just continuing to think about win-win. I would love it if you said, hey, the next 50 contracts you're doing, I'm going to think about Mike and what he said is win-win. Negotiations is asking really good questions and making sure everyone gets what they want, in my opinion. And then we're going to begin the contract process. And I will tell you, actually, she's our team leader now, but Tina Johnson was our executive broker when I first started. And something she told me that's always stuck with me is when you look at your contract, and like I said, they're all different in different states. But for Arkansas, for instance, it has bubbles all along the way, number 17, number 16. And she always said, well, look at each one of those numbers, and there should be a bubble field filled out. That's a good rule of thumb whenever you're starting the contract process and you're going through it and you're going to go through with your clients. Go through everything and start top to bottom and don't jump all over the place. I think that's really important. So what's going to happen, though, when you submit the offer? Well, the seller is going to respond in 3 ways. They're either going to counter the offer, they're going to accept the offer, and they're going to reject the offer. And you go, whoa, Mike, let me tell you, in this marketplace we're in right now, I don't even hear anything from the agent because they're getting 97 offers. I get that, and that's understanding, and that's going to happen. But I think if you call them and you talk to them, you're going to get a good sense. And you know what? Sometimes you can let them know. I'll tell you at a high level, something I'm seeing win really well in our marketplace. If you go ahead and let them know, we're thinking about, hey, your list price was $500,000. I've talked to my client, and we're going to do $525,000 with $25,000 gap to appraisal. And you might get a sense from that agent just saying, hey, how do you feel about that offer? And they might go, I'll tell you, I got 97 offers and it's not in the playing field. Well, good. You can use that information to work with your client because the contract has not been fully executed or rejected. And you might be able to make an edit or an update to that. But good stuff. And I'll tell you, one other thing I want to make sure our principal broker talks about in here, and I love this, that he says this. We've had this too many times where our buyer's agent has gone to the list agent and they said, hey, here's what our offer is. And the list agent says, awesome, we got a deal. And then an hour or 2 later, they get another contract that's better than ours, and they take that one. Just so you know, please hold that information before giving it to your client until it's fully executed and completely signed, because those things are happening in our marketplace now. Well, good. We threw a lot of things at you. We got the screen. You're going to save it to your phone. Let's go ahead in the room and everyone. What are some of your ahas? Hey, and I know you guys are joining us from all over the world. We're excited to have you. But if you're on YouTube, depending on the platform, or if you're on social media with us, please go ahead and post your ahas or anything you said, oh, I never heard that before, or whatever it may be, right below, and pay that forward. Ask some questions. Let us help you. I know we have several people listening in to be able to answer those questions for you. Exciting stuff, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Now we're going to prepare the offer. And I will tell you something else I want to make sure I leave a tip in here too. Too many times when I start in the beginning, there might be two people or even sometimes three people, whatever it is, actually buying the home or buying the property. Never, never, never just do it with one of them. I will tell you, save yourself so much time. Just say, hey, are all the decision makers here? You'll go a long way to get them. If you both have them on Zoom, I highly recommend it. Usually, if you can do this face to face, but in the COVID world and digital world, sometimes that doesn't happen. But make sure you have both decision makers on the phone to make sure you move that forward. And I'll tell you too, whenever you receive information, make sure you have both decision makers on the phone to get those emotions, ask questions, and that's just going to move it along for you. So we're going to prepare to write the offer. Remember that tip I just told you a minute ago. All the radio buttons, most states have that. I'm also licensed an executive broker in Florida, and that's very similar to. So, and then if I didn't say this too, I also teach at the University of Arkansas. I teach in our business school. I actually teach principles of real estate, and 48 states have some similarities as far as contracts and the principles of real estate. So you heard it from here first, I guess, right? But two, one thing I've heard is too many times too in classes, ensure that it's the right property. So depending on your state, we tell a lot of people go to our tax records. Land Glide is a really good app too. That is $9.99 a month, but that's a good resource. But that is not your end all be all. I use Land Glide as just a resource to go along with the tax records. But for instance, in Arkansas, we want to make sure we truly get the right parcel number and then using the long description. Build a rapport with the list agent. How cool is it that I just told you this as we're starting to build up to this part? I think that's really important. And I would tell you too, I've heard this in a couple KW classes and trainings. If they have one they really want to win at a high level, sometimes meeting with them face to face during a negotiation is a win. If you have that opportunity, you can do that. I think that goes a long way. Inquire about their activity. Ask them, hey, how many showings are you having? How many offers? Just so you know, most agents, I call it diarrhea of the mouth. They'll tell you anything and everything most of the time. Inquire about other offers on the property. I think that's really, really important. And I'll tell you something we want to make sure, and I think it goes into this, but I want to weave in the seller property disclosure. I actually would, even though this is kind of reflecting 10, if you will, that makes a big difference. If for some reason they say, hey, we had past foundation issues and we did repair those, but I think that's pertinent to your offer process and price. Ask questions. So this is one of the things we led to before. Is the seller needing to move right away? Are they looking for a 7-day close? Are they need to be in Seattle by when? Whatever it is. And I think that's going to determine your closing date and all those things. I've learned too many times we always think it's price. It's really not always price. There's other things that are in play. Hey, my daughter's going to start school in Kansas City, so I want to be out by X. And good questions there. And you notice too, if you look at our list, questions, inquire, ask, I'll tell you that goes a long way. Ask the list agent how they want to receive the offer. How important is that? I'll tell you, there's some big teams in Northwest Arkansas. They actually have it right in the MLS email to offers at X team. So make sure you ask those questions and be very buttoned up. And I'll tell you, you set a stage for who they're going to be working for. So whenever you submit an offer, put the prequal in there, put all the things in there. Hey, there, whatever it is in the email, be very buttoned up. It shows who they're going to be dealing with. Obtain the buyer's pre-approval from the lender, right? And has that on there. But when I see the gap, most agents don't put it in ahead of time. When you're a list agent, I say, hey, can you send me the pre-approval? How great is it to make their life really easy? They're going to go, oh, maybe they received an offer that was $2,000 more than yours, but it was handwritten and then delivered, crinkled, but yours was, everything was a nice bow email. You're going to win. Review the MLS. I will tell you, do that over and over again, because here's sometimes in the market that we're in, and we're not going to talk about commissions, but if there was commission to talk about it, just make sure that's reflected on MLS so you know what you're getting into. Just be aware of that. I think that's important, because a lot of people say, oh, I didn't know it was at that rate, or, so just something to be aware of. Also, it might say RV conveys, whatever it is, in Arkansas, that's personal property, but you want to put on there, maybe in the contract, you'd write RV at no value from an appraisal standpoint. CMA, right? We use that. We use a lot of acronyms in Keller Williams language, but it's a comparative market analysis. I will tell you right now, in the shift we're in today, it's moving very, very fast. So I would make sure you didn't look at 60 or 90 days. Do a tight piece on that, and then the disclosure. Good agents, and we're going to get into it, but if you're a list agent, highly recommend going ahead and putting that seller property disclosure in the MLS. It's just going to make your life so much easier where you don't have 47 agents say, hey, can you send me over the seller property disclosure? You're setting the stage for who they're going to be working with. This is a lot of stuff, but you know what I would do? This is back to, I would screenshot this. I would save this. I would save this to the favorites on my phone. So I had it right there and said, oh, I remember we talked about this. Let me, for my client, the fiduciary, let me go look at the tax records again. Sometimes the MLS, a lot, if you're doing new construction, builders just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. The tax records might actually have a different square footage, something for you to think about, and you can let your client know, hey, the MLS reflects this. The tax records had this. Let's just be proactive in having that information. So good stuff. Great slide. I love this slide. Woo! How was that? Ahas from that slide, or just anything you've learned so far. Hopefully this has been valuable for you, and we'll continue on to give you some nuggets. Post below, post on social media, ask in your market center, ask another agent. And I will tell you too, if you haven't written a lot of these and you're a single agent, get another agent or a team or someone else in your market center and just say, hey, here's my offer. What do you think about that? Be able to ask people questions. That's our culture in Keller Williams, to be able to help each other. I call that crowdsourcing, right? Do it. Help each other. Post on Facebook, your private Facebook page in the marketplace, and say, hey, is someone available to spend 5 minutes with me on this contract?
I can't imagine very many agents saying no to that.
Not in our Keller Williams family, please.
Absolutely not. All right. Next.
Whew, that was a lot of stuff, right? We're only halfway through, aren't we? Moving right through them. But
Yeah.
write the offer. And I think that's really, really, I love this little screen. I just think that's something for you to save again to your favorites. It's just a win. So if you go later, you go, oh, remember that trading with that guy with the really cool hair? You got to tell a little bit of jokes every now and then, right?
Ideal hair. I love it.
All right. And it's really cool. I had actually someone on my team, Clint is his name. If he's listening and watching, I'm so proud of him. He got his first under contract. I don't think that's happened to a lot of people where you've written your first contract and then you've got it pending or under contract. That's pretty cool. And that just shows, though, that he went to our productivity coach. He was learning. He was watching. He was like, Ignite. He was preparing himself for this opportunity. So make sure you're doing that at a high level. But writing the offer, price and terms. And I'd almost flip them, in my mind too. Terms. It's funny. I think before I got into real estate, when I first started, I thought price, that's it. That's what it's about. They want the money. No. Depending on the circumstances, that's why you want to call and you want to ask really good questions. What are the terms that are most important to your client? Ask that question. Seller property disclosure. A lot of times too, people get in the process of just filling it out, completing it. No, review that. Make sure you peek at those others and those notes on the bottom to be able to say, okay, what's important to our client, or what happened? Maybe there was a brand new roof. Oh, does it have a 10-year warranty? Well, that's something, right? That's a value, and that's important to know. What conveys? A lot of times the MLS might say it, might not say it. And if you're dealing in large teams in your marketplace, sometimes they have a staff, then they didn't talk to the client. Maybe they're not on the same page, or maybe they're uber buttoned up. But sometimes you want to make sure you ask, hey, I noticed in the MLS, the garage refrigerator conveyed. Just want to make sure that's the black one, and you write it in the contract with that serial number of that refrigerator. Reduce it to writing, and that's what my great Jody says, which is great. Earnest money. And some of you, in some states, they're not doing earnest money, or some market centers, they're not. Non-refundable deposit is happening at a high level in the market we're in now. Make sure you understand the differences between the two, and you can explain them to your client. And if you've never done a relocation before, most relocations in the United States require earnest money. So in this marketplace, you actually might do both earnest money and a non-refundable deposit. Just good to know, because relocation is happening at a high level. As you know, in the heartland, we're mostly in the middle of the United States, and a lot of people are moving from the West Coast and the East Coast to the middle. So a lot of relocation is happening. Due diligence and inspection period. Hey, know when those are, know when you need to hit those deadlines. And I'll put a little task in here. One thing I would do is obviously we're going to be utilizing Command and our technology, but I would challenge you to integrate your Google Calendar and have that on there. Bing, on Wednesday at 10, remember I need to send in my URSA, or my inspection repair survey addendum, to make sure I'm staying on timeline for myself. Or I would challenge you, here is a good time too. Most market centers in our region have professional services. You could hire that person to be integrated on your team to help you win and close the deal at a high level. Time of seller acceptance. What does that look like? And I'll tell you, being a really good agent is communicating and being on one team with the other agent. Hey, I noticed, it's due tomorrow. Just want to make sure we're still going to hit that timeline. How can I help you? What do you need? See, we're one team. I think that's going to win. Financing terms. As you know, right now in the marketplace we're in now, we were at 6% the other day. It's ever changing every day. So here's a tip. If you had someone do a pre-qual or pre-approval 60 days ago, is their buying power going to be the same from 60 days ago to today? Say no, right? If you've seen that chart, the rate in 2 points, I'll give you a quick example here. We had a client. They were buying a $660,000 house and they had 3.25. Now it's going to be 5.25. Their payment went up by $100 by 2 points. So it's really important to get a new pre-qual, and especially if you're the list agent too, make sure that's updated to make sure affordability. Buyer approval letter. And as you know, if you're using Keller Mortgage, we actually do a full pre-approval versus a pre-qual, if you will. And there are differences, and it's important to know. Make sure you get with your Keller Mortgage rep to understand that, and that wins at a high level. So that'd be one of those things when I'm submitting an offer, I'd highlight it big in the email. My client is pre-approved, not just a pre-qual, and I think that's important. Closing date. As you know, and I'm going to give you a tip, and this is a Mike Dooley thing, but take grain of salt, if you will. You should never close on a Friday. Never close on a bank holiday. You can't, right? So know what those are, especially during the summer. We have a lot of July 4th. We have June 20th. We have Labor Day. There's a lot of those coming up. It's important to know. And the last day of the month. Okay, Mike, why? Just so you know, title companies are bombarded with, and attorney states bombarded on Fridays because people want to have the moving truck come on Friday and then do the moving. Well, what if there's something that occurs that's not flawless and you need to move it? Can you close on a Saturday or Sunday? Not in most cases. So you got to move it to Monday. So now your client's moving truck is sitting in the driveway. They can't move in and it hasn't funded. That's why I really like to bake in another day. So if you had it on Thursday and you had to move it to Friday, you're still fine. So do your best to not close on Friday, or at least set that first closing date. Or the last day of the month is truly bombarded. In some states, they think they're saving on taxes or other things that are being escrowed. So just a good little tip for you. Home warranties. Highly recommend it if you can. As you know, in this market, it's very hard for a seller to accept that, and you can add that later. All right, number 11, repair limits. Just so you know, too, I think it's really, really important if you're not to spend some time with your home inspector, especially in the beginning. Because if you know, for instance, HVAC or air conditioning units are $7,900, that's important to know. If the home inspector goes, hey, I don't know, the AC unit might be on its last leg. Do your fiduciary for your client. So if you know what some of those things are generally to repair, hey, painting is $3 a foot. Hey, a roof is $15,000 to $17,000. And you're aware of those things, I think you're going to win at a high level. Whenever you're negotiating, you can understand some of those big costs. And in new construction, a lot of it is foundation and framing. Those are your two biggest costs. So it's good to know if you have a lot of new construction in your area. And then 12 and 13, those kind of can come together in certain instances, depending on what state you are, what areas you are. But addendums, I will tell you, you set the standard for hitting those dates and making sure you get all those in. One thing you don't want to have happen is your client. So I'll give you a little example. Say your closing date was June 15th, and then you never got in the addendum for a closing date modification, and the closing date passed, even though you and the agent talked about it. You were supposed to close June 17th now, but you never sent in that addendum. full fiduciary responsibility, you're out of contract. So if that person did want to back out, they could. They have every legal right to do that. You don't want to let that happen to your client. Just make sure you're hitting those deadlines and make sure those tasks are in command for you. Good stuff. That's a great list. That's another one that I would definitely save to my phone. Great. Now we're going to talk through the offer. I think you win at a high level when you make sure that you have both decision makers there and you kind of walk it through and you say, hey, have you had a chance? I always send it to them ahead of time, let them review it. So what you're going to do is you're going to minimize every single question. Maybe if you're like me and my wife, we can kind of talk through it. We can, hey, what about this? What about this? Or whatever. So then that way, when I go with my agent, I can say, hey, we looked through it. Here's the 2 things we'd like to change. I think you just set yourself up for success versus just saying, all right, let's walk through it together. You give them some time to think through everything and make sure. So for instance, if the client's going to write a $25,000 gap to appraisal, they have to come with $25,000 of cash extra on top of closing costs. That's a big number. So if you can let them spend a little time with that, I think that's just going to help you in the long run. But yeah, review the contract. Make sure the buyer understands the contract, review the details, reconfirm with them the closing date. And here's something I do at a high level and make sure if you're on a large team, go ahead and put a calendar invite on that calendar for the client. Say closing date, you like 1 o'clock. Go ahead and do it with your title person. Send it then so you have a hold on that date. So you don't have, oh, when's the closing date and all that stuff, because a lot of emotions happen getting close to closing, packing. What are we going to eat dinner tonight? All our pots and pans are in a box. Go ahead and send a calendar invite, and that wins at a high level. So this is good stuff on here. Number 6, avoid rookie mistakes. And I think a lot of that is just asking really good questions and making sure they say, do you understand? Want to make sure you have clarity. I know we use a lot of acronyms. Go ahead. If we need to bring on our title person on the phone now or our lender, let's just talk together to make sure that they really were on the same page. I think you win at a high level. So good stuff. I know next we're going to go. Next slide should pop up. Ahas. Hey, what ahas do you have? Post below. Asking your market center. Is this good information? Is this helpful? I actually wish I did not have this platform or this information when I was writing my first offer, but I had a very experienced agent. She was 13 years in the business, and she just spent a lot of time with me at the coffee shop and said, hey, I would do this, I would do that. So helpful. So you're going to I would challenge you to do both. And then a lot of market centers have contract classes and other classes. We do one, I believe it's the 3rd Thursday or the 4th Thursday of the month. That's our executive broker presents ideas. Go to those. You learn so much. I learn something every day. Highly recommend staying engaged. Present the offer checklist. Double check all the documents. And that was back to what I was talking about, my great executive broker. She said might go 1 through the numbers and look at every radio button to make sure it's checked or dialed. And so many times when executive brokers are pushing contracts back, it's because you missed number 7, you missed number 8. And I will tell you, whenever you have to go back to your client and get them to initial something because you missed it, it's put something in the back of their mind a little bit, just saying, hey, am I dealing with a professional? So take the time up front to slow down and just go through it again. If you have to, if you need a little help on attention to detail, have someone else, another agent in your office. Hey, can you look over this? Did I miss anything? I think that's really important. Follow the instructions. So if the agent gave you instruction in the MLS, here's where to email it. Here's what else to have with it. I think that's really important. Label the documents clearly. That's so big. Whenever you have PDF A, B, C, D, what if you said, hey, you had the client's name and you had pre-approval and you saved it to your computer. Maybe you had a folder on your desktop and you said offers, and then you had each client's name in there and you kind of saved all the files and they were labeled perfectly. That's just going to set a standard for who they're doing business with. And I will tell you, there's 4,000 agents in Northwest Arkansas. And I say there's 100 that do this at a high level, if you will. I'm just using a number, round numbers. But when I say, oh, boom, I'm getting it from this agent. Well, you know what? It's going to be buttoned up. It's got everything saved properly and labeled and clear. I think that's going to go at a high level. Put them in the right order. I think that's important. This email summary, so big. What if they know, hey, include it in my email? And I will tell you too, I get emails sometimes that are 47 paragraphs long. In the world we live in, no one's going to read that. Bullet point. Boom, 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 boom. And they can look at it right on their phone. I believe there was a stat that said like 86% of business now is done mobile on their phone. They're going to be reading it on their phone. Pardon me. Boom, 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 I think is really important. Notify the agent saying, hey, you can give them a call, you can give them a text. Just want to let you know the offer's in your inbox. Thanks for the opportunity to work together. Be sweet, be awesome, right? And I would say go ahead, if you use a TC or professional services in your marketplace, be buttoned up. Go ahead and put all the documents in command, because there's happened many times where me being the CEO of the team, where someone's reached back to me later, 2-3 months, and they said, hey, we closed on the house. Here was something happened. And I'm able to say, oh, okay, let me go right in command. And I'm able to send it to them. You win at a high level when you do that, and you say you're dealing with a business. Good. I like it. And number 8's the big part. Consult with your buyer. Hey, we're ready to go. We're doing this, and get their excitement, get their high five, right? And
It's
if they're
time
one of
for
the
earnest
buyers,
money.
a big hug, and let's make this happen. Woo. Take a deep breath. We're giving a lot of information at you, but this is good stuff. I will tell you, not because I'm presenting it to you. Some of this is put together for us, but just want to let you know, save these to your phone. They would be really, really awesome. And I have mine. It's like real estate favorites, and they're all together right there. And boom, you had them all organized together and say, oh, I'm going to write my offer. Let me make sure I win it at a high level. It's not always price. So what if you did these tactics and you beat out another offer that was $5,000 more than yours because you were buttoned up? And I guarantee you will do that. Hey, moving right along, receive and respond. I like it. And I like this little thumbs up, right? Let's make sure, how you guys feeling? How's the energy? How we doing out there? Comment below if it's something you're, hashtag awesomeness, hashtag I'm going to win some more offers. I love it. Receive and review the offer. Make sure the offer is complete. Kind of, we mentioned, you hear us over and over again. Slow down. This is one of those times I feel like in our world, everything's fast. We're multitasking, which is against the one thing. This is the time to slow down and make sure you're really reading through and make sure it's correct. This is an official document that's going to be fully executed. Let's make sure it's right. And I would tell you, I post on the bottom, hey, just making sure you receive this. If you don't mind, send me back an email saying receive, or you send them a text, hey, I sent you the offer. I want to make sure you receive that. I think that's really, really important. Create the executive summary, and that is that bullet point. Boom, boom, boom. Pre-approval attached, whatever it is. No repairs up to $1,000. Just want to reiterate, it's in the contract, but you just put a summary. What's those key things? Hey, per our call, we'd like to close in 47 days, and it's in there. I think that's going to win. And you guys can see on the screen a little bit too, but I love number 6. If you're in a highly, highly competitive price point, and maybe it's $250,000, and your lender is awesome, and you're working with a great Keller mortgage person, go ahead and have them call the other agent, or vice versa, depending if you're on the buyer side or list side. Let them go ahead and be that reassurance piece. Hey, I'm dealing with a trusted lender. They're going to go ahead and call you, our buyer, or we're good to go. I think you're going to win. You've heard me reference it several times in this training, this Ignite, this awesome time together, but command, command, command. Here's what I'll tell you. It's $1 billion technology that you want to make sure you're using at a high level, and don't count on your own memory. Some of you, if you're like me, you don't remember what you ate for lunch last night or yesterday, right? So use the technology to work for you, because what if, as we continue to work with clients and they say, hey, Mike, thank you so much. I'm looking to buy my 3rd, 4th Airbnb. It's already in command and it's buttoned up for you, and it pre-fill in some of the things for you as I kind of look at some of the things coming down our technology platforms for command. Let the technology work for you to make your life easier, to save time. This is a non-revenue generating activity, so let the technology work for you, right? Awesome stuff, guys.
I would probably also add that there's a lot of tools in command that not everybody's aware of. So I would highly suggest going to your local market centers trainings. Our region does a regional training every week, and I know that KWRI does trainings all the time. Get into this system and start using it, because not only is taking multiple offers easy in this system, having your database, connecting with your clients, tasking for remembering all these tasks in making an offer can all be done in Command.
And I love you said that. I know you're in a high level. I learn from you every day. Thank you for everything you do on that. But on the right
Thank
hand
you.
side, it always says updates. That's an area that I go to on my Command too, because it kind of tells me, oh, here's new features and benefits of Command that I didn't know before. And I'm always amazed at all the great things that are coming. So if you haven't been in Command recently, just so you know that's all right. I'll tell you a quick story. GPS doesn't care where you were yesterday or the other time. Navigation GPS says, where am I going? So where are you going? So today's the time to get into Command. And if you're overwhelmed by it sometimes, don't attempt to spend 5-6 hours today. Do 15 minutes every day and keep building on that, and you'll learn and you'll integrate at a high level.
And one of the best references that you can use when you're in the thick of it and you have questions is answers.kw.com. It will walk you through everything in Command step by step with pictures and videos. You guys are going to love it.
I love that. It's so easy.
Yes. All right.
Guys, and hey, we're the list agent now. We're on the selling side, and this slide might look familiar. It might be something you saw previously in our session, but this is just a good way to think about it. We're going to receive the offer from the buyer's agent. And just so you know, as a list agent, you want to ask really good questions. It might be, have you worked with this buyer for a long time? Or have you submitted any other offers on any other houses? Go ahead and ask deep questions to make sure that you're going to be in a great relationship with a great client. What this lays out, as we've seen previously before, if you do have time, and most states require this, I would highly recommend it just to protect yourself. If you can, go ahead, and most contracts have it on the last page to reject the offer if you do get multiple offers. Take the time. It's just going to save yourself if you can. That's just my little executive broker tip for you guys.
I think other agents really appreciate receiving that rejection too for their client. It's something that it just shows that you have respect. I appreciate receiving one myself.
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I don't know about you. This is my career and this is my life, like a lot of people in the marketplace. So we want to make sure that 10, 20, 30 years from now, I'm going to continue to work with some great agents. They want to say, oh, Mike Dooley always does it right. That goes a long way. And this slide is going to show you when you reach a decision. We're going to counter the offer. We're going to accept the offer. We're going to reject the offer. And I love back to the phone call. I'll tell you, if you can really have a good phone call agent to agent, there isn't a lot of back and forth, because you can say, okay, here's my questions, here's our needs. And you can, as much as you can get an accepted offer, it's just going to set up the stage for the whole transaction. I would challenge you to do that. Hey, if you're in the market center, go ahead and pause or take a second if you guys wanted to, and get a couple people, and you role play, do some offers, do some responding, practice that phone call back to each other. If you're not, just, hey, maybe after the session, go ahead and call an agent that's in your market center and say, hey, will you do 15 minutes of role play with me? Really, really important as we kind of go into a shift that you're winning conversion at a high level. This is really key to winning. We are just moving right along. This is kind of our recap and our ahas. You're achieving, you're making it happen. And remember, I think this is session 17. You guys are doing it. How's your thinking? And here's something I want to use during this part too, is if you are a buyer's agent and you've been, writing 30, 40 offers, please take a deep breath and never go to your client and say, this market's so hard. It's so hard to win a deal. You're going to set the mindset and the stage for the whole deal with that client. Take a deep breath, do it in your car before you get to them, and just saying, I'm excited to win this house for you. Here's some things that we're going to have to do maybe a little bit differently than you've done in years past, and lay that out for them. That's a different mindset, and you're going to set the stage for who you are and who they're working for. That's going to go a long way. If you're like, multiple offers, right? That's not going to win for you. So I would just challenge you. Remember, sometimes we're doing this so frequently and we're doing it. This might be the person's first home, their dream home they've been dreaming about. Maybe they've been saving for 5 years, and then you're like, just so you know, don't do that, please, right? Remember, that's our culture and who we are, and just say, I'm so excited to help you. You could tell them, be transparent. There might be some challenges along the way, but I'm going to be right in it with you. If we do the right things together, we're going to win this home for you.
I would say not only that, Mike, but something that I learned from you was to always have a team. Mike is very famous for talking about his team, all of the people that he has around me. And by team, I don't mean the Dooley Group team. I mean his lender, his closing company, and everybody that would be involved with the contract. So I would say part of your mindset is ask those people to get involved, ask them questions, be involved with your team, and they will be involved with your transaction and help you.
I love you said that. I'll give a quick example. I remember actually Lisa Darling is in here. We love her. She was helping a lady buy a house and they were concerned about the roof. What she did is she picked up the phone and she called her insurance person and said, "Would you guys insure this roof?" And they went over there, they checked it out and said, "Yeah, we'll insure the roof." And that helped the deal move along because they knew they had peace of mind that the roof would be insured and it'd be fine. So sometimes we're not the expert. We're the quarterback. We need to be the person to be able to bring in the other people that are best at what they do at a high level to let our clients know we got you. Uh,
Yeah.
hey, thank you guys. So glad you joined us on session 17. What a blast. What a good time. Hopefully you take something from this and you win more deals and just do it at a high level. We're excited to be here. Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Thank you so much for coming. We hope you have a beautiful day. Have a great one, Keller Williams.